Welcome to Coffee Date with Spirit. Grab your favorite mug and get cozy while your hosts, Kristen Forno and Amy Potter, two maybe not so ordinary mystics, chat about the extraordinary magic that can happen when you invite spirit into your life. So for everybody listening, hi. Welcome back to Coffee Date with Spirit.
Welcome back.
Today, Kristen and I, when trying to feel into what we wanted to talk about, we actually recorded a whole episode 2 weeks ago, and this brilliant digital master didn't press record. So we wanted to attempt to recreate what we were going to talk about before, which is we talk about a lot, bits and pieces of our spiritual journey, but I thought it would be interesting to actually talk about our work that we do in support of others. And this is certainly an extension of it, but it's really thus far been more sharing our personal journeys rather than the work that we do. So I solo taught my first Reiki class a few weeks ago, and it was life altering and path altering. And I'd been avoiding it for so many years out of fear and that I didn't know enough. And I don't know, I had a few blocks in general with it doesn't really matter, but I'm one of my friends in my herbalist class asked me, she's like, do you teach Reiki? And I was like, I'm supposed to. It's part of the path for a Reiki master teacher to teach, to share this healing modality with the world. So I should. And so she kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me until I finally taught a class. And I ended up having 3 herbalists in the class. Like, I mean,
So good.
spirit, amazing. So talking about my work as a Reiki master and Kristen's work as an intuitive life coach, but we really both are working in the energy field of light, or becoming our most authentic selves, basically our true self, which is a place of love. But this morning, I brought up Masuro Emoto's work in my daily musings on Instagram, and it's really interesting. So the big revelation from the Reiki class was Reiki is not something that we do. And Reiki is an ancient healing modality that channels universal life force energy to help balance the body. But it's not something that we do, it's something that we are. And that the analogy that I taught a lot from the book called The Inner Heart of Reiki, and the nugget of wisdom that came through the night before I pulled up the book the night before I taught the class, and was Reiki is not something that we do, it's something that we are. And it's as if in our lifetimes, as you know, from the time we're born, many of us put lampshades over our light. And so
You are rushing through this. I have to pause you for a minute. I have to slow you down because wait, 1 second. Okay. So let's back up.
Yes.
When I saw you post that you did the Reiki class, I knew you were going to do the Reiki class. And when I saw it coming into fruition and I saw you really excited about it, and then you hosted it, and when you showed up on the next call after the session that you had hosted and the training, you were so lit up. You were so on fire. And that quote that you had found in the book, say it again, what Reiki is.
The quote of Reiki is not something that we do, it's something that we are. We
Yes.
are universal life force energy, intuitively guided
Yes.
universal life force energy, really.
So I had not known a thing about Reiki. And when I heard you talking about the training, like my outsider view of what you were training people on was how to harness energy. And I picture like people at a gym using the ropes, like throwing the, using the rope, right? You're waving them up and down. And yet when you said that quote, the feeling I had in my body about opening up to the energy that we already are, like it's everything we all are, this interconnectedness, it was so powerful. And when you were speaking about that, your body glows, like you're just in a glowing state when you speak about it. And the lampshade metaphor, analogy, what is it?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Is so powerful. And when we talked about it on the session that we didn't record, like we spent a lot of time on
Yeah.
this particular part, because this is something that we think is really this path to uncovering that authentic self,
Yeah.
that you're we are constantly covered in lampshades. It's not just one,
No.
and so could you spend just a little more time like
Yeah.
talking that out? Because I think it's such a wonderful way to understand this idea that we are just uncovering our light, not trying to pull it from somewhere else or source it. It's like it just inherently us.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that, and it's such a nuance, and it's what your work does too. So like, I think it'd be interesting for both of us to talk about this process of uncovering or taking off the lampshades to really letting that inner light, that highest self shine. It was the way I thought about Reiki, and I've got my first certification or my first attunement in 2017 or 16. And it was the way it was taught to me over and over again is we are really channeling universal life force energy through our body. So we are not using our own energy. We're tapping into this universal life force energy and using our intuition, but it has its own intelligence too. Reiki has its own intelligence. So trusting that this life force energy is going to come through the body and through the hands, and the hands is an extension of the heart to help balance the body, to help find all the blocked places in the body and hopefully break up the energy so the body's channels can flow.
Mhm.
So this is how I've practiced Reiki for many, many moons now. And so I read this book the night before, half the book the night before. It had been sitting on my table for, I don't know. I bought it at the used bookstore a couple of years ago, I want to say. And it's been sitting on my desk or my table to read. And
Able to read, which has currently 80 books on it.
yes,
Amidst a
that's my,
library of like 400 books.
yes, that's the immediate to read list.
Right.
So yeah, so I picked up this book and I read that Reiki's not something that we do. It is something that we are. And I was like, yes, like this, speaking of light bulb, this light bulb goes off. And I was like, well, this makes sense. And all of this work that I've been doing, connecting to the yin and into Earth's energy and, but this idea that this energy is not just coming through us, it is us. So, but Reiki is not going inward and sharing my own like kidney generated life force, right? Like
Right.
it's the ability, like through the receiving, putting your body into this as this receiver of energy makes you able to then share it. But it's really this energy that connects us all that is us. So we're not separate from it. And it was such a nuanced thing that like kind of blew my mind and changed the way I taught Reiki and now practice it. So it's just a matter of like finding the places where you might have 3 or 4 lampshades on and just, and helping take them off. So the class was just the most amazing experience. And everybody, yeah, I don't know. It was the energy in my sacred space, affectionately called the Vag Lounge. And it was so intense for like 2 or 3 days that I would get a headache when I came in here because the energy was like still continuing to work on it. Feel like clearing my third eye and the crown chakra. So ever since then, I've really been in a very different place energetically, save for today.
Well, it has so this has been really fascinating for me to witness because we've been bouncing off each other pretty on and off regularly, who's able to hold the light or
Mhm.
hold a frequency above all this noise outside of us, this external noise, this political
Yeah.
show that we're experiencing, that I'm experiencing it as a shit show. And also, we had so much happening these last few weeks with the planetary alignments and the eclipses and, a blood moon, a Mercury retrograde, which happens all the time. People don't realize it happens monthly, but I guess I didn't realize how frequently that happened until just a couple of years ago. I always thought it was like such this big happening.
Rarity.
Whatever, it happens all the time. But we
And
have
then
to be,
Jumon. Yeah.
yeah.
So, go ahead.
So
Like,
we happen to be going through all this stuff. And what I noticed about you, Amy, is that you were so steady
yeah.
through all those shifts. And I was experiencing at the same time, I was experiencing an intensity in my daily life,
Yeah.
things being thrown at me that I've never had this intensity happen. Well, not never, but definitely it's incredibly infrequent. But you blossomed, and like when I heard you just recently, or just in this a few minutes ago, say that it shifted your path
Yeah.
doing this Reiki work. I noticed that you started doing more things that you had talked about wanting to do, and started a sustaining practice of showing up online and these things that, were just like, wouldn't it be great if I did these things? Now you're just all of a sudden you have the capacity to do these things that are also frequency holders and light bringers activities, and you didn't dip. Whereas I was experiencing these,
Yeah.
and it was really powerful to watch that. And I was like, oh, wait, Amy's not dipping. Like, I'm not going to dip. I'm just going to ride this flow. And here I am with, like crazy insertions into my week that I never expected. But okay, I'm going to still stay high up.
Yeah. I mean, I watching you through the challenging couple weeks, it was interesting though, because like it was not, it might have been momentarily extreme, but you say like, then I felt you're right though, through all of this cosmic energy and political energy, like I felt very stable and very expanded through it. But like watching you though, like the waveform wasn't extreme. Like it might have peaked, but you came right back to this like center through it pretty quickly, and very, maybe not, maybe it didn't feel easy, but from the outside, like watching you navigate life's challenges, because there's always challenges, was an amazing thing though. Like there you had a pretty powerful resilience, just to come back to that center.
Yeah. And I feel like it's us doing this work weekly and getting to see each other expand and
Yeah.
learning more about how we are carriers
Yeah.
and all these things that really gave me that strength
Yeah.
last week, especially, and the ability to detach from, it's not happening to me. It's just happening around me. And I don't have to be the crazy, be the experiences, but,
Yeah.
and what I'm talking about, just for the listeners, are things like, having and this happens to everybody, right? Like you have a stacked day. Like I have two kids, and I'm a taxi mom after school, and I have places to get the kids, and we have a chorus event, and we have dinner plan, like orchestra concert, sorry. And we have dinner planned, and all of a sudden I'm walking the dog and I notice she's acting like she has a UTI, and it's 1 hour before the vet closes, and I call them, and I somehow manage to get her in the car, which she absolutely hates. She's a Great Dane getting into the back of a sedan. She just sits down and will not do it. She gets in, I get her over to be checked. They give me the medicine for a UTI. I get her home, and I'm able to handle what had to happen for the orchestra concert, even though I didn't actually make the concert itself. But like, how do you fit that into the only available hour in a day? How does the universe line up so that it only
Yeah.
happens right then? Because I wasn't
Yeah.
going to take her for a walk and wouldn't have known, right?
Right.
And then the next morning, waking up, and my partner's father is in the hospital in another state, and he's got dementia. And then her tire goes flat on the way to work, And we have no time that day in the schedule to deal with any of that stuff because I actually was helping another family with their daughter during the week. So I added in another kid into my schedule, which by the way, people who have 3 kids, holy hell, like I'm impressed. So I had that. And then, there was something else that happened on Wednesday to deal with. And then Thursday, my daughter has an e-bike accident and I ended up having to go to the ER and all this stuff. But the one example I'll give that made me realize how much this work is helping is recognizing as I'm driving over to get my daughter from her friend's house that I am in complete rage and pissed off like you cannot imagine, swearing, like driving like a maniac. Like I am just so angry. And I'm driving and I'm like, wait a second. Like, why why am I angry? What is this anger? I'm noticing myself like raging. And I was like, no, like take a deep breath, Kristen. Like, you're not angry. And I was like, oh my God, take a deep breath. I had on in my Spotify playlist, I listened to frequency music.
Yeah.
So I have on like some high frequency, like third eye opening. And I'm like, deep breath. I'm like, that's interesting. Like I had to be mad in order to get out of the house to go help this child. And then I was like, I don't need to feel that right now. And I just dropped it.
Yeah.
And it was one of one of the fastest response times I've had to an emotion like that, where I'm terrified is
Yeah.
the real fear. We talked about this.
Yeah.
I was terrified because my daughter was going 18 miles an hour and slammed onto the ground, onto her face and called me. I saw her. So I have like no information. I don't know if she's going
Yeah.
to pass out or whatever. So the ability to recognize we're in an emotional state and stop and detach and then ask for help in that moment, I really credit it to just doing this work with you and doing our emotional processing and watching you do your training and thinking about this universal energy we all have access to. And I'm thinking, I just want to help heal
Yeah.
and make sure she's okay. Like that's my job. And then later having an opportunity in the emergency room to actually break out into prayer with her.
That
Wow. And call in all the guides and ancestors and all the help we could. And the kid has not a single broken bone. All her things are almost fully healed. I mean, this girl she
yeah.
slammed into her face, shoulder, and knee.
Ugh, it just makes my stomach hurt.
They thought her mandible was broken. It wasn't. They thought she had a separated shoulder. She didn't. Her face is healing beautifully without even a bruise on her cheek, on her upper cheek. I mean, I don't even understand it other than all of the energy that was supporting us for that.
So I think speaking of guides, we didn't officially invite them in, but I feel them here anyway. But speaking of guides, so it's something that came through in my Reiki training that I was aware of on one level. It's that when you are channeling or when you are connecting to this life force energy that we are, that's within and without, it is a healing process for the Reiki practitioner as well. Like to bring this energy through your own body or to invite that level of healing frequency into your own body while you're working in somebody else, it heals you too. So but it was really profound when one of my students was on, and I hate even using that word because like student teacher doesn't even feel right, like like it feels
Yeah.
hierarchical, but whatever. So
One of your herbalists.
yeah, they were working on each other and here, and one of my guides said very loudly there to bring up the fact that this is an exchange of energy. It's an exchange of light between you and the client, and that the energy goes both ways. And so we often, especially as coaches or healers, we're in this position where somebody's hired us to help them, to help take the lampshades off, or to help work through a financial block, or to help whatever it is. We're here as helpers, right? And I think that, and so this guide said, yeah, don't forget. And so often when I work on horses, it's the same thing. Don't forget that the horses are healing you too, that your clients are healing you too. And I think that our partnership, I know for me, has taken me out of this place of being somebody who helps somebody into a position of having somebody else hold space for me
Mm.
and ask me to make sure that I am practicing what I am teaching my clients to do or what you're guiding your clients to do, right? And I think that I mean, I have my own practices, and but there's another level that I think that our partnership has opened up for me in embodying what I'm born to do on this planet,
Me
right?
too. Me too. 100%.
Like your prayer in the emergency room is such a beautiful example of that, is to here you are and you're inviting in all the guides, the elements, the ascended masters, and you're like, your daughter says, Mom, I want to pray. You're like, okay, we're gonna
I
pray.
know.
Call everybody in.
I did. I said to her, and she's been interested in religion a bit. I mean, look, we're growing up in the South in a very conservative environment. All of the kids around here go to some level of a faith church or a very Christian environment.
Yeah.
It's not the environment I grew up in. I grew up in a Roman Catholic
Yeah.
setting, Irish Italian, up in the Northeast. It's
Oh,
very different than what is very evangelical down here. So, and cookies, and my daughter has been baptized, right? So, and she's been to church before. It's just not something that we're practicing
yeah.
around here for sure. But she's really interested in it lately. So she was in on that gurney or whatever it is in the emergency room, and I'm looking at her, and we're waiting for the doctor to come in, and we've already seen one doctor who sent us to the ER for x-rays, so we're a little nervous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, Mom, could we say a prayer? And I was like, yes. And I had zero, like, I mean, we're in an environment, there's people right out the door's open there. And I'm like, let's do it. I said, but we're not just going to pray to God, babe. I said, we are going to open it way up. So I'm like, get ready.
God.
And so, she pulls her hands down, and I pull my hands down, and then I open them up, and I just called in everybody like we do on here.
Yeah.
And I said, and at the end I was like, and Jesus and God and whoever else wants to come in and
Yeah.
join us, let's do it. And I said some words, and then she said some words, and some of it was around like, let there be no pain, no broken bones, no lasting scars, like perfectly healed, let all the healing come through. And it did.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can say is, when you have an emergency room doctor tell your child to her face that she would have died if she landed in any other spot on her head like that, like she would have been dead, like she can't even believe she's alive, something is protecting
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
And it's immensely powerful. And I do think, like, for me to have an instant, like, opening,
Yeah.
wild. I
Yeah.
don't think because I am not one to break out in prayer out in public, that is not who I've been. But like you're saying, just the practicing, like being more authentically me, I am capable of it.
Yep.
I'm happy to do it. I believe in what I'm doing and
But
bringing.
yeah, but you said that until we started this podcast, you've never really led an invocation or these extra.
Only a few times in
Yeah.
very small groups like in a group where I was in person,
Yeah.
and then only with clients or in these little, but nothing like, oh, who knows how many people will hear this over time,
Yeah.
you
So it
know.
feels, I mean, it feels like we wanted to talk about our work, but it's really how our work has changed. I mean, for me, how my work has evolved since you and I have been doing this work together. And it's a process of mirroring in some ways, and space holding, and like it's just been a really powerful
Allowing, like,
allowing the
just like I
vulnerability.
have permission. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, permission to be fully you. And like if I even think on my daily, Instagram things, like there's sometimes that I start them and I'm a little bit nervous and I was like, oh my gosh, is stuff going to come through today? Am I going to stumble over my words? And then, like I've gotten to the point where like, yeah, I probably am going to stumble over my words and like, that's okay too. And like this level of self-acceptance. And you think, and it's so interesting because these are all things that I teach that come up in energetic blocks in the body, right? And these are all things that come up over and over and over again in my sessions with people. It's like, how do we work with this block so you can be more of you, and self-acceptance and being seen and all of these things. And then when we first started this podcast and my Creative Heart Collective Substack community, it brought up all of these like intense issues around being seen. And
Yes. Yeah.
um, so
And it was my biggest block, even starting this work, was I have been a hermit and in hiding almost, not really like trying to be or deciding to be. I just have been behind this wall
yeah,
for years, like
yeah,
years. And I feel so, I had been feeling like, what the heck? Like, what is it about this all that's like got me so, hermity?
yeah,
And in going through some of my human design and all this other work that I do, I'm like, okay, it makes sense that this is a fallback position for me. And yet to do my work, I need to be seen.
yeah.
And so our first podcast, I remember when we edited it, I was like looking at every word and everything. And I don't even look at them anymore when after they're edited. I'm like, I don't like whatever I say is what I say.
Yeah,
What am I going to say that's like, I
right.
don't speak inauthentically.
Yeah,
So what is it about what I'm going to say that
yeah.
would have me like try to edit it out? Or I'm not trying to position myself as
No,
anything anymore. It's just like, yeah, like take it or leave it. I don't fucking care if you
I,
like me or not. Like if you're listening, there's obviously something here for you. And if you don't like it, shut it off,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So yeah, it has helped me tremendously. And
yeah,
I have, it's been the door opener because I have so much more that I want to do
yeah,
and really crave to do and really desire to do. And some of it is unformulated around the how.
yeah,
That's the path that I'm working on right now because my prior work was so vastly different than the work that I do now, you know,
yeah,
by leaps and bounds. Like some threads that tie it together, but limited in terms of the ability to be who I was versus who I was projecting
yeah, yeah,
in a big way. And I mean, that's something that might be a way to lead into some of my work
yeah.
if you feel like that.
I do. I do. I feel like that. I was thinking that there's just so many. I remember when you watched whatever I put out there after my Reiki class, and you're like, Amy, like, this is what I do. Like, this is just different words for what I do too in your life threading. And so, like, why don't you talk a little bit about where that, if it feels right, where that came from? And I don't know, maybe we go from there.
Yeah. So I think I'm trying to think of even like what a lot like right after your Reiki class, I think what I saw in you was just this ability to respond and guide that you have and that you do one-to-one and you do in your settings, but you stepped into online in a live fashion and the messages specifically that you were sharing are all deeply tied into the type of messages and the work that I do as a life coach and also as an intuitive and as this, what we call ourselves not so ordinary mystics,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I felt like when we first came together, I understood that we had a lot of synergy in our lives and that we both had a deep love and passion for whatever this mystery
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Like we had a passion for the mystery and we experienced it together in a very deep and meaningful way, in a very, encompassing container that was all about. So I knew enough about you through the years to know, yeah, like we could join forces and do something fun here. And my soul self, seeing your creative side, is like, oh, I want to be like that. I just need to unlock that. Like, give me that. Like, so like I love watching you create. Like, it's absolutely astounding to me the magnitude of creativity that comes through you. I just am constantly blown away by it. Constantly. Every single day, there's something that you do that I'm like, oh my God. So there was that, right? Like the knowing and the
Yeah.
feel, like I could tell this was going to be great. And then what I started to notice was you're doing your sessions with people and we're working with people, like you said earlier, to just unlock their blocks, make them self-aware, turn, click on the light, take off the lampshades. Like it's all the same thing. It's just coming about it in different directions. And my initial work in this space where I said I'm going to do this work as a life coach, as an integrative wellness and life coach, I came through it so methodically and systematically, right? Like I got a certification and I went through a course and I did, and I knew I already had so much the foundation because I'd been marketing executive and I had led teams and I had managed people and, whether or not I was the best manager or worse, who knows? Like, but I had experience doing this
Yeah.
consulting, being a mom, like there's plenty of stuff that comes through a 25-year work history plus mothering and then, going into this work to feel confident enough, like I can guide people, especially through transformation and change
Yeah.
because
And a lot of it.
I am constantly in transition and of some sort. And it's amazing. It's just why I'm that person. That's just what I can see in other people. So I think my through the last decade of doing actual coaching with people according to the current systematic way, right? What I recognized in my work that I now see also was happening in my marketing environments too is I had intuition as my superpower.
Yeah.
And when I sit down with someone to do a methodical life coaching assessment and then work on what they're going to do and, create an action plan, blah, blah, it's like I, and this may be actually, as we're talking about this, maybe this is part of like what's blocking me in my work anyway. That part of the work is I get really bored along the length of the engagement with clients when they have to go do the work because
Mhm.
I don't like the phrase do. I am not like about that. What I love is when I sit down with someone in a self-discovery session and I ask for their physical, mental, emotional, spiritual systems. I lay them out. I look at them. I'm able to instantly see the areas that you could pull one thread and the whole thing could like elevate and your whole life could change in a heartbeat by doing one thing, or the particular story that you're telling yourself that is just the story that needs to be worked on. Forget all the other stuff that's going on. That don't play whack-a-mole with your life. Like you got to look underneath that thing. There's just one machine that's popping up all those moles, like it's so fun for me. And the amount of intuition that comes into play for me is what I didn't understand about myself. I always thought it was my analytical brain. Like I could analyze anybody to death and yes, I can.
Yeah.
And what's really
And
going on is my intuition spirit just is like, "Oh, this is what you sitting here opens this person in this way."
yeah.
And that I've come to know as exactly the same work you're doing with,
Oh, yeah.
it's just the same stuff
Yeah.
coming through a different body here and a different approach in a different way. And different people are attracted to you versus me versus the way to work together. And it's the way I think about it.
So as you were talking, you're like, oh, these systems, like maybe that's part of my block. Like I was literally hearing these systems, they're part of my block. And they were part of my block too. Like I think you and I have shared this. Like we love educating ourselves. We love learning.
Yes. I
So,
love learning.
like,
Lifelong learner.
yeah,
Hashtag.
for sure. I love it. And one of the, I think, reasons why I hadn't taught or solo taught a Reiki class is because um, I felt a little challenged by the system. And like when I learned Reiki, like I start at the eyes and then the crown and then the ears. You can do hand positions. But like in the history of Reiki, there was a doctor who wanted to systematize it. Like Mikao Usui, he went up to the mountains in Kyoto and was struck with this healing system. But it was intuitively guided. And but then he healed a bunch of people and then he met this doctor and the doctor was like, hey, let's systematize this and then we can train a bunch of people and we can heal the world basically.
Right.
And that system, I never used it. I was like, have never used hand positions in doing Reiki. And if I do, it's just because I've read the energy and my hands go to the heart chakra or something or the heart area. But
Yeah.
so I'm like, well, how can I teach this and go through all the hand systems and all? Because like I don't use it. And then when I picked up that book, The Inner Heart of Reiki by Franz Stein, he was like, yeah, the way Mikao Usui taught Reiki very individually to different people because like you with your clients, every client is individual. So how can you create a system
Yeah.
for an individual?
Yeah.
Individual may have a block in the sacral. I mean, like
Yeah.
each person's healing journey is so different. And
Yeah.
reading that gave me full permission. And I still covered all the things. So if they went to another person's Reiki class, like I think that they got all the basics.
Yeah. Yeah.
I basically taught them the foundation is let intuition be your guide and
Yeah.
let your systems be the guide. But really, when it comes down to it, and I think that that's what we've also embodied in this podcast, is that we sit down. Most of the time, we have an idea of what we're going to talk about, but we trust fully. We're like surrender and we let come through what wants to come through. And that
Yes.
happens with our clients too. You
Yes.
like
Yes.
create a system for,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah. Like for me, the system part has been a barrier. And last year I was working with this wonderful woman named Dr. Barbie Kalev. And she's offline right now, but she has a podcast out there. I think it's called Next Level Greatness. And she just restarted it, but she'd been doing it for years. But she was like, I met her in the fitness world. Her husband's like one of these super lifters, a super trainer, kind of a famous guy out there in the fitness world. And she was a really strong leader, but she had made millions of dollars and she's very notable in that realm. And she had launched this, she was talking about human design. And so I'm trained in a bunch of different things, right? I've taken a bunch of different certifications. They're all personally meaningful to
yeah,
me. I didn't get them because I thought, oh, this is going to make more sense as a coach or whatever. It was just like, oh, I find this like fascinating. And I'm
right.
going to I'm going to go on a full, deep dive for 2 solid weeks, not snacking or eating or sleeping. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like so into it.
Yeah.
And then, 3 years later, come out the other side and still be like, oh my God, it's fantastic. I use it with people. I love looking stuff up, but I'm not like a human design person,
Yeah.
right? So like, this is an example. So she was posting about herself and saying like, I am a 6'2" profile. There's all these profiles in human design, and we're still going to do an episode on this one day. But I was like, oh, she's a 6'2", and she's a generator, and she's an Aquarian. And, you know, she was talking about recovery one day, and I happened to mention her my Whoop. And I'm like, have you, my Whoop tracks this, and it might be a thing for you. She got it. She started like going on this crazy recovery journey, and she's healed herself over the last few months. Like, she
Wow.
had a story that she was chronically ill, and now she's not, which is unbelievable. But anyway, when I was working with her, I decided to work with her because she decided to launch a new program. She didn't know what it was going to be called. She didn't know how much it was going to cost. She didn't know how long it was going to run. And she was just going to launch a program, and who wanted to join? And I was like, me. I
I'll do it.
had no idea why. But
Yeah.
something about what she was talking about all the time. And I'm like, I don't care. I just need to be in this woman's energy. And sure enough, I joined the program. She ended up making it 6 weeks. I got it for like, it was $111. She sold it for like more than $2,000. It was a 6-week container. We met once a week. She did a lesson. We got to talk, called Connected to Source. I helped her name it, but
Mm,
emails, because I mean, it was like really random, because not random, but synchronicity was there. Like, I needed something, and she was showing me a way to break free of all these rules about how to do any program. She's like, I don't even know that, like, if it's a program. And I was like, hands up. And then there were, I think, 12 of us that went live. And I think there were like 24 people that joined the program that first round, on knowing nothing about
yeah.
what it's going to be about. Talk about the power of freedom and connection. So I learned through my human design. She helped us analyze our own human design in relation to creating programs and understanding audiences and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, I have been really inhibited by the idea that I have to sell this program structure that was provided to me by the academy that I got certified in, or just follow this
Mm-hmm.
general way that other life coaches do it. And I'm only still now in the phases of like opening up to like, what could it be
Right.
for it to just be my offering? And
Yeah.
and just know that like I've been working on that for 10 years. I've been trying to formulate what my offer is. It's never come, like, I'm constantly blocked on it.
So as you talk about it, your solar plexus is like
Yeah.
up. You are your offering. That's the thing.
I love that.
You are to trust that in any container, what comes through is meant to come through. Like that, that's your power. I mean, your
which is,
whole,
which is great. And how do I create a business out of that?
yeah,
Has been my question. Like, I love that. And thank you for that, because that is very freeing. And how do I create an abundant stream of flow that is in monetary,
yeah,
form, to sustain me, my girls, my partner, the dog, like, you know, how does that come to fruition? Because when I was a marketer, let
yeah.
me tell you, making money hand over fist, and I was totally set up, and I could have ridden that till, I mean, still to now, and I could have retired with, tens of millions of dollars. I had already made enough, so, but this space has not produced like that. And I don't know how to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
This is where, when I work with other people on their blocks, like this is one of my blocks too,
Yeah.
is financial abundance. I have plenty of abundance. I don't actually have a block there. My life is very abundant.
Right.
I'm very grateful for it, and I have nothing to worry about. And I would like to be one of these, people who is helping the world and receiving back
Yeah.
through the work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it feels like to me a lesson in working with your latest human design coach. I mean, that's the lesson,
I know, it was so
is
powerful.
starting something and not knowing where you're going to go, like the way, because I mean, there's a lot of people I follow on Instagram that they're the transformational programs, and here's where you start and here's where you're going to end. Like your own words, I'm from matrix to magic. But what is
Yeah.
magic? Like sometimes we don't know. Magic is the mystery. And I think that feels like that is the block maybe for both of us, because I have a very similar block there, and I think that's why we're in each other's lives too. It's like we want to know where we're going to go so that way we can like help people to tell them where we're going to go. Well, we don't know where we're going to go. We know
Yeah.
how to control our energy right here and right now, and like that's where we're going to start and see where it goes. And
Yeah.
it's almost like, what if we opened a container that is a question mark? But
Yeah.
there's a huge source energy and wisdom that comes in when you just surrender and say, I don't know where we're going to go. I don't know. But I know that there's people who want to get on the bus and be like, let's go fly to the stars on dragons, you know?
I know.
It's like
Right.
that's our podcast to me as well. Is like
Yeah.
where this podcast is going to go. It ends in a question mark. It ends in the mystery. Thank you for listening to this episode of Coffee Date with Spirit. Please join Amy and Kristen for a bonus episode of meditations, practices, and an oracle card reading based on our conversation today. It's called Clearing the Waters, Let the Mystery Flow.